Internet, my name's Lave. I watched Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice for the second time, and I will say this, I did actually enjoy it more second time round, but I still stand by everything that I said in my spoiler-free review. You can watch that by clicking here or clicking in the link in the description. With that being said, this is a spoiler talk video. I'm going to talk about the plot and more about things that I liked and things that I didn't like. So if you haven't seen Batman v Superman yet, stop watching the video now. If you don't care about spoilers, let's get on with it. So I was going to do a breakdown of the plot, but it would have meant that this video would have been 15 minutes long, and I'd like to try and keep my videos to about 5 minutes. Actually, let's try and do it in a nutshell. You've obviously got the introduction to Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne and Batman. You're also introduced to Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, who is manipulating Batman and Henry Cavill's Superman. Not only that, he's also manipulating the Senate, played by Holly Hunter, and a former Wayne Tech employer called Wally, played by Scoot McNairy. You've also got Amy Adams as Lois Lane investigating an incident in Africa, which does loosely tie into Lex Luthor's plan, which Superman is being blamed for. I didn't really buy that. It also introduces us to Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman and also sets up the Justice League with an email. At the same time, it's hinting and setting up a bigger story arc in Darkseid. And then amongst all of this, you got the fight between Batman v Superman, which then leads on to Lex Luthor creating Doomsday, and it's just, oh my god, it's a mess. There's so much going on. Normally I'm against studios breaking up films into two, but I actually think it should have been done for this. I do feel this gives weight and further evidence that Warner Brothers and DC are just playing catch up to Marvel. Yeah, they're totally rushing things, and I do think that this film has suffered as a consequence of that. In a lot of ways, I do kind of admire what Zack Snyder has done. He has kind of made some sort of sense out of all of these different plot lines, but there has been some sacrifices in terms of character development, and I still very much believe that they haven't got Superman right. But I'll come back to that later. Let's stay with the positives. Zack Snyder is an excellent action visual director. Batman v Superman is a really good looking film, and the action sequences are amazing. As it turns out, he was absolutely right to cast Ben Affleck as Batman. He easily steals the show. But then on the flip side, he did also cast Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. I do still think it was a miscast because I actually liked what Lex does in the film. I just didn't like the way he acts. Even on the second viewing, I still couldn't help but think of Willy Wonka and the daddy issues. Papa. Now, that's not to say that I think Jesse Eisenberg is a bad actor. I think he's a brilliant actor, and I think casting him as Lex Luthor kind of forced them to go that way. However, I can't help but think that they've left themselves a back door in that he's playing Lex Luthor Jr., so there is the potential for someone else to come in and play Lex Luthor Sr. Yeah, maybe. So Jesse Eisenberg isn't the biggest problem in the film. For me, the biggest problem is just too many things going on at once. And one of the things which I wasn't a fan of was all of the dream sequences, even the very first one at the beginning of the film. It starts with a flashback of the Waynes being murdered. It very much reminded me of Watchmen. I saw elements of Batman Forever in it, and also Batman Begins. And then I was just completely jarred out of the film because the bats start swirling around young Bruce and they lift him up the cave. I was like, what the f? But then they very quickly make sure that Ben Affleck's narration says this is a dream sequence, dream sequence. And then throughout the film there are other dream sequences. There's even a dream within a dream at one point. And it's not clear if it's actually a vision of the future or if it's just a feeling that he has. So Batman's in the desert and the whole world has gone to shit. There's an Omega sign heavily referencing Darkseid. He's trying to track down some kryptonite but then gets tricked, so he starts shooting the shit out of everyone. And then he gets captured and runs into Superman. They showed a lot of that in one of the trailers. That whole plot line really reminded me of the game Injustice: Gods Among Us. Then he pops out of that dream and the Flash is there in front of him in the Batcave and he's saying that he's right about Superman. And yeah, it's a cool scene and all, but it feels like that's all it is. It's a cool scene. It's blatantly just there to show the fanboys that we are setting this up. Ugh. And it's not just Batman who has a dream sequence, Superman does as well. After Lex blows up the Senate meeting with the Granny's peach tea sequence, which is hilarious, Superman returns to the moping, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. So he goes off to the mountains and he has an imaginary talk with his dad. Kevin Costner is back as Jonathan Kent, and he does say this story about trying to save his farm when he was younger, and he does, but as a result of that he destroyed Lana Lang's farm. So he is saying, yes, you're not perfect and you will make mistakes, but you still got to try and do the right thing. And it is kind of an emotional scene, but it's not very hard hitting. They actually could have cut that scene out, which brings me nicely on to Superman himself. Now, as I said in my spoiler-free review, Man of Steel left off with the promise of him becoming the Superman, so I was disappointed that he returned to the brooding, oh, I'm not sure if I want to do this. And that disappointment is further cemented by the fact that they went with the death of the Superman story arc. Yep, they killed Superman. I turned to my mate at the end of the film and was like, I can't believe they did that. It really made me think of the whole reason why the death of Superman comic book arc exists at all. It's because Superman's popularity was waning and people just found him boring, so they killed him off. And I think that's where my disappointment lies, is because Man of Steel had set it up with the promise of making Superman cool and awesome again. And I know they haven't really killed him off because the dirt rises at the end, but I just can't believe that they did that so early. To put it another way, and I know it's easy to compare it to Marvel, but if you look at Captain America, who I strongly suspect is going to die at some point in the MCU, it's going to be much more emotionally hitting because they've established Captain America over 2 or 3, 4 films. They honoured his origin story and then made him kick-ass cool again in The Winter Soldier, easily one of my favourite Marvel films. And if they do kill him off, it's gonna be, Essentially, they tried to do the same with Superman, but in a much shorter period, and I just felt that they rushed it and they've blown their opportunity now. So annoying. Yeah, I guess we're going to have to wait and see where they take it now. In my opinion, they completely wasted the whole Doomsday character. It was cool that he evolved away from the Lord of the Rings troll, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and was beginning to look more and more like Doomsday. I do feel like if he evolved kind of one more time, then he would have looked more traditionally like Doomsday. But they rushed it. So that's my thoughts on Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, and pause the video now if you want to check out my enjoyment tracker. All in all, I can't help but feel a little bit disappointed. It does feel like a huge missed opportunity to make it something great. I think when all is said and done and we're a few years down the line, I think we will look back and just say that Marvel set up their cinematic universe better, which is such a shame. I wanted this film to be awesome, but it's just kind of mediocre and very, very flawed. With that said, Zack Snyder can do action scenes. The fight scene between Batman v Superman is awesome. I love the scene where the effects of the kryptonite gas is wearing off and Batman's punching him in the face. It's like... yeah, that was awesome. Hands down, my favourite action scene is the bit where Batman has to go and save Martha Kent, and they're totally referencing the Arkham games. That is kick ass. So all in all, would I recommend going to see it? Yes, I would. There are elements to enjoying it. If you accept that it's a flawed movie and keep in mind that it does feel like everything's been rushed, lower your expectations and you might have a better time. So that's my thoughts on Batman v Superman. I'm going to do a Man of Steel review where I pick up on a lot of other things. It's going to be quite fun, so I'll get that posted as soon as possible. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. If you didn't like it, dislike it. Either way, tell me in the comments. Okay, you ready? Yeah. Subscribe.